Hey everybody, this is Dave Blair, and I'm going for a little ride today. Today is August 31st, the last day of August in 2024. It is 89 degrees out here. Not too bad. I am in North Phoenix, just east of Cave Creek Road. I'm going to head down these power lines. And instead of just talking about my bike, which is a Kawasaki KLR 650, if you don't know, I'm also going to talk about the things you're not supposed to talk about, which is politics, money, and God. But for this one, I'm just going to talk politics, because since it is 2024, and we're getting ready to come into the presidential election. So you got Trump running against Kamala Harris. Anyway, hold on a second. This is a little technical and sandy. Okay. Oh, before I begin, let me just say I'm not heavy into politics. Politics isn't really my thing, so but a lot of people it is, and it's like, they just get so worked up about it. And so let me just talk about some generalities first. But again, this election is between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. So Donald Trump for the Republican Party and Kamala Harris for the Democrat Party. So speaking about Democrats and Republicans, well, first of all, it really doesn't matter that much who's the president. I mean, they're really only president for 4 years. It's not the end of the world if your party doesn't get elected. But okay, so in generalities, though, Republicans are for less government, and Democrats are for more government. So if you just come down on one side or the other, do you think that government should get bigger and have more control over, doing what they think is right? And again, we'll talk about a couple issues. Or do you think that government should be smaller and it should be up to the individual to decide what is right for them? So again, in generalities, taking everything else out of it, Democrats think there should be bigger government and should be in control of more things like education, defense, all the big things, taxes, but also, they want to they think they should be in charge of healthcare and other things. But again, just in general, they would like to see the government get bigger and more in control of things. Whereas Republicans prefer a smaller government. Okay, so that's just the generalities. And so, like, again, with the Democrats, let's say, welfare and things like that, and raising the minimum wage, like they did in California here recently. A bug just flew in my helmet. They raised the minimum wage, I think, to $20 an hour in California, and it caused a lot of headaches for a lot of people. But just taking that out of it, again, it's like, do you want government to say what the minimum wage should be? Ooh, this is sandy. Or do you think it should be left up to the market? Man, this is really sandy and deep. We did have a little rain last night. Okay, so if you go on YouTube, you can watch, I think the channel's called, I don't know, just search unintended consequences. And you can look back on, like laws that were passed mainly, ooh, this is really sandy. Like mainly like mandates, where they say, oh, we want to get rid of combustion engines and make everyone go electric, right? And this is really deep sand. So again, it's like I think that there's a lot that still can be done to make combustion engines run cleaner and get better gas mileage and things like that that we haven't done already. But the Democrats are pushing for this Green New Deal and stuff like that. That's they won't embrace nuclear power, but they want wind and solar and all these other things. And I'm not saying that they don't have their purpose, but again, if you watch some of the unintended consequences about rules and regulations that are passed, and it's both sides, Republicans and Democrats, they mean well, when they pass a law or they try and enact a regulation and stuff like that, but the unintended consequences that come through those that they didn't think through all the way, it's pretty educational. So, and again, I would say both are guilty, but the majority of that stuff is from the Democrats. Okay, and then, you have some issues too. Well, let's talk about the cult of personality here for a second too. So, with Donald Trump, a lot of people don't like him because they say he's not very presidential and all this other stuff. But if you go back to when he was elected the first time in 2016, it's like the nation wanted to elect somebody that wasn't a politician, right? And Trump was not a politician. And I mean, it was actually funny because, like he would send out mean tweets and stuff like that. I found it entertaining, but people were like, "Oh, he's so not presidential," and it's like, well, what did you expect? You elected somebody who's not a career politician, right? So that's what you're going to get. You're going to get somebody that's just an average guy, and that's what I see him as. And people were all upset with the way he acted, and it's like, yeah, I probably made some of the same mistakes. So what? And then you have somebody like Biden on the other side that got elected in 2020. And he's been a career politician. He's been a politician his whole life. And it's like the whole country just went in the opposite direction. They were like, "Oh no, we want somebody that's a politician." In my opinion, he did an awful job. And again, I mean, I couldn't believe anything he was saying because he was just such a politician. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and then you got Kamala Harris that just kind of got. She was like a DEI hire, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because Biden picked her, because he wanted a woman of color. It's so dumb. I wish we would go back to a merit-based society where you get what you earn. You don't just get promoted because of skin color or anything else. And I don't care about skin color. I don't care about race or your sexual gender or any of that stuff. It's really not important. But who it is important to is the Democrats. They always make a big deal out of it. It's got to be something, and it's like, can we just get back to a merit-based society? Anyway, so those are some of the issues. The other big one is like abortion. Let's talk about that for a second. So everyone gets all upset about abortions should be legal and probably paid for by the taxpayers. And then you have the other side that's like, you should never have abortions and they should be illegal. And as a guy, I tend to say, well, I don't really have a say. But here's the crux of the situation. Everybody wants to come to arms about whether abortion should be legal or illegal. And what I think is it should be legal, but that's not where the focus should be. The focus should be on education. So what they should do is educate everybody that says, like, when you turn 13, you should have a mandatory sex education class where they go over the horrors of abortion, and present the thing truthfully and show, this is what happens. And then, it's like, how can we prevent this from happening? That should be the focus. Like, okay, abortions are legal, but there's way too many of them in this country. And because a lot of people just use it as a form of birth control, and it's like, well, wait a minute. If we educate kids coming up, to avoid getting pregnant from the get-go, men and women, boys and girls, should all be educated on abortion in school and the facts. They should be prevented with the facts. And you go back to education too, it's like they teach some of the dumbest stuff nowadays, and it's like they've gotten away from the reading, writing, arithmetic, the basics. It's like they're not even teaching kids the basics. Instead, they're teaching them how bad America is, when America is a great country, and we need to get back to that. Ooh, freshly paved road. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. And again, it doesn't matter which candidate wins. Nobody should be losing their head about it. And I do think that Donald Trump is the better person for the job, only because I've seen really how bad Kamala is. And again, I don't think she belonged in that position, and she's just kind of fell into it and has been elevated, for nothing she did, but just happenstance. Yep, so there's my little talk about politics. So again, I hope I didn't piss anybody off or anything like that. I'm just sharing some of my thoughts on the subject. And you got to admit, Donald Trump's entertaining. Okay, I'm going to have to do a little voiceover here because it's way too hard to concentrate and get my thoughts out while riding off-road. So the other thing I want to talk about too is like the laws that we have in the United States. We have too many laws on the books, and I wish that Congress would, in order to create a new law, you have to remove 2 from the books. Or maybe we could use AI to figure out what laws are on the books that don't need to be on the books and somehow get them off. And then once you clean up the laws of the United States, then I also think that they should be taught in school starting probably at about the 4th grade. From 4th grade on, all the way up through 12th, you should have a, society law class or some kind of law class where you just go over the laws at age appropriate times, so that when everybody graduates from high school, they have a good understanding of what the laws are of the land. And I'll give you a couple examples here. So when I was a kid, I thought jaywalking was when you were at a 4-corner street. If you walk diagonally from one corner to the other, I thought that was jaywalking. Well, jaywalking is crossing the road anywhere where there's not a crosswalk, and you could be ticketed for that. And so again, it's like the law's not really clear. I see people doing it here in Phoenix all the time, just walking across the road, and a lot of people get hit. So the reason for the law is to stop people from crossing where there's not a crosswalk, because cars aren't expecting people to be running across the road there. And so I understand why the law is there. Matter of fact, if you go up to Sedona, Arizona, they have put barriers in the main strip there's like a waist-high fence because people would just cross the road all the time, and it's a highly congested area. And it's like they basically they try to make it idiot proof, but then you always have some idiots that outsmart the idiot proofness, and they'll run across the road and leap over the wall, which again is dangerous, and you're liable to get hit by a car. So I understand why the law is there, but I'm not sure that everybody understands why the law is the law, and it's so hard to enforce too, unless you actually do it in front of a police officer and he feels like writing you a ticket. So again, like laws like that, they should be taken off the books, and then they should try to do something about it another way, or just again educate everybody on why you should not cross a street except at a crosswalk. Okay, and then one of the other laws, so like states have different laws, okay? So one other instance, I was riding with two of my friends, and we were in Virginia, which has a helmet law. So I was on my motorcycle, we were all on motorcycles, and we were riding in a helmet law state, and we had gone to North Carolina, and after going down the road for a little while, we ran into somebody coming the other way, and they were not wearing a helmet. And we were in our 20s, and so we pulled over at a rest stop, and I said, hey, that person wasn't wearing a helmet. Does North Carolina have a helmet law? And so this is before cell phones, so we couldn't look it up, and we were like, yeah, I think I heard North Carolina's no helmet law. So we all wanted to ride without helmets because we came from a helmet law state where we had to wear helmets all the time, and so we all took our helmets off. We're going down the road. Sure enough, we get pulled over by a state trooper. We all got a ticket, I think it was $90 for riding without a helmet. And we were like, but I thought this was a no helmet law state. And he goes, that's South Carolina. So we were one state off. But the point is, like back then, you couldn't just look things up on a phone. So the point is, there was often times where you'd have ignorance of the law. And I think if law was taught in school, again, age appropriate laws as you're coming up through school, so that when everybody graduated from high school, they would have a firm understanding of what the rules or the laws of the land are when they get out of high school. So, and again, there's a lot of laws on the books that don't even need to be on the books anymore. Either one, they're not enforceable anymore, or they're not applicable anymore. And again, I don't know if you could have AI go through all the laws that aren't applicable and maybe get them off the books. And the reason I bring this up is I've been talking about this for years, and I watched something where Elon Musk had talked about the same thing, about getting laws off the books that don't belong on the books anymore. So anyway, I threw that out as another good idea. All right, so I think that was all I wanted to cover as far as the politics side. And the other thing too is like people like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and these career lifelong politicians, if they won't put term limits on people or on people that are in office, then I think we should have some other way where if somebody's on the ballot, let's say here in Arizona, where if this person has been a congressman for longer than 10 years or something, we should be notified as people. The voting public should be notified, and we should replace that person. Like, do not vote for this person. This is a career politician. That they were never meant to serve their whole life in Congress or Senate. They were supposed to just come in and do a public service and get out of office. So these people, when they sit in as a congressman or senator or anything like that, they know how to work the system. And once they've been inside long enough, that's how you get corruption. So again, there's just some people, there's some bad blood in our Congress and Senate that need to be replaced, in my opinion. And again, they've tried to put term limits on these people, and it just, you're asking the them to vote against themselves. It's just like whenever the Congress votes for a raise for themselves, it always seems to pass. Anyway, I don't know how to fix a lot of this stuff. All I'm saying is there's a lot of problems in there that could be fixed if the American people all put their heads together and tried to fix it. One other thing I'd like to say too is you have a lot of people out here voting for, president or, things like that. They want to go and cast their vote, but they haven't done any research. They haven't done anything. They're uneducated when it comes to the people that they're voting for. That's how people like Nancy Pelosi keep getting elected. They just vote. They're like, well, this is the person I voted for last time, or this is the party, or if you're in a union, they tell you who to vote for, and it's like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. But anyway, I still have hope for this country. I hope things will get fixed. And, I just makes me so frustrated sometimes. But anyway, yeah, unintended consequences. I highly recommend you go look that up on YouTube. You'll see a lot of what I'm talking about, where they pass a law, and they mean well when they pass the law, but the unintended consequence almost makes things worse than if the law had never been there in the first place. All right, thanks for watching.